guys, welcome to our podcast.
We're going to talk about the Idaho murders. Now, Jasmine and Fia.
On Sunday, November 13th, 4 University of Idaho students were mysteriously stabbed to death in the dark of the night in their house in Moscow near the Idaho campus. Let's introduce the victims in this case. The 4 victims are Madison Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. Maddie and Kaylee started their friendship back in the 6th grade. They met at a charter academy where they went to school. In the summer, Maddie loved the water and Kaylee had a boat. They were perfect best friends. They even went on each other's family vacations. Then came high school and they convinced their families to let them both go to Lake City High School. Even their birthdays were 2 weeks apart. Xana Kernodle had quite a different childhood. Kara Kernodle, Xana's mother, got them evicted from their apartment. While Xana was young, she lived back in Arizona. She had long brown hair and enjoyed being a kid playing outside and always had a smile on her face. She was always looking for a mother figure, though. Kara had struggled with meth, and Xana's father, Jeffrey, had also admitted to struggling with meth. While Xana was 5 months old, Kara was incarcerated on new drug charges. She was released, but then shortly before her daughter's first birthday, she was arrested again on new drug charges. When her parents got divorced, Xana and her sister Jasmine were then sent to live with their aunt and uncle in 2004. Maddie's dad also struggled with drug-related charges. All 3 of the girls practiced self-love despite some of the problems going on in their families. Xana frequently posted quotes to her Pinterest board like, "Be the energy you want to attract." Ethan Chapin was a triplet. Ethan was the oldest, then his sister Maisie, then his youngest brother Hunter. Ethan and his brother were in the fraternity Sigma Chi's, and Maisie was a Kappa Alpha Theta. All 3 of them were students at the University of Idaho. He was remembered as a shining light. Ethan and Xana were dating at the time.
Did any of the victims ever mention being followed or seem suspicious of a person?
Kaylee Goncalves did have a ton of issues with a stalker and always being followed at the bars when she was going out. The Moscow vape shop owner did state that the girls would come to the shop and at least a group of 4 stay safe because their friend was always being followed. The night of the murder, November 12th, 2022, Kaylee and Madison went out to the Corner Club bar in Moscow. While they did that, the couple, Ethan and Xana, went to Sigma Chi house for a party. Keep in mind that Madison Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and 3 other girls lived in the 1122 King Road house in Moscow, Idaho. The other girls that lived with Goncalves, Mogan, and Kernodle were Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortison. The girls' landlord mentioned that there was a 6th girl on the lease, but she did not live at the house the night of the murder. Ethan Chapin did also not live at the house either, but he was staying the night with his girlfriend Xana. Bethany and Dylan also went out into Moscow on the night of November 12th. On November 13th, at about 1:40 a.m., Mogan and Goncalves got food at the Grub Truck, which was a local food vendor where after the college kids went out, they would stop and get food before going home. On the Grub Truck surveillance video, a suspicious man was seen acting suspiciously around the girls. He was ruled out as a suspect. The girls then called a private individual to get a ride home, and they were ruled out as suspects as well. Chapin and Kernodle walked home from the fraternity house, which was about a minute walk from the girls' house, at around 1:45 a.m. Kernodle ordered DoorDash to the home at around 4 a.m. Mortison said she woke up at around 4 a.m. as well and heard what she thought sounded like Goncalves playing with her dog that also lived at the home named Murphy, who was a golden doodle. After that, the roommate also heard someone who she thought was also Goncalves say something to the effect of, "Someone is here." This also could have been Kernodle because phone records show she was on TikTok at 4:12 a.m. Mortison said she looked outside of her window but did not see anyone. She then opened her door again and said she heard crying coming from Kernoodle's room. After she heard that, she said she heard a male's voice say something like, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." When she opened her door, she saw a man in black clothing and a mask walking past her. She froze and was in shock. She stated that she didn't recognize the man, and he walked towards the sliding glass door. She said he was 5'10", not muscular, but had an athletic build and bushy eyebrows.
Why do you think that Dylan didn't call the police right after whenever she saw the man she did not recognize in her house?
I don't think she called the police because she probably didn't call the police because it was a party house and there were a lot of people in and out of the house, and it could have been one of her friends' friends, and she was probably just scared. But at around 4:17 a.m., a neighborhood security camera picked up a sound that was less than 50 feet from Kernoodle's room. The sound was a barking dog, distorted whimpers, voices, and a loud thud. On the morning of November 13th, the two roommates called their friends over to their house because they thought one of their roommates had passed out on the second floor. At 11:58 a.m., police said that they had a 911 call from one of the roommates' phones calling for an unconscious person.
Why did the roommates and their friends call for an unconscious person when there were 4 dead people?
The roommates did that because whenever someone's dead, they don't want to say that they're dead if people are listening. They say it's an unconscious person.
Oh. Do you believe any of the girls that lived in the house were responsible for the murders?
I thought at first that one of the roommates probably did it because at the beginning they were saying that they didn't hear anything going on in the house. The police found the 4 victims and said they did not believe anyone in the house was involved in the murder. When the bodies were found, police went around the neighborhood and got neighbors' security footage, which found a white Hyundai Elantra go by the victim's house 3 times and then entering it for a 4th time at 4:04 a.m. The white Hyundai Elantra returned to the neighborhood again just after 9 a.m., 5 hours after the murders. On November 17th, autopsies showed that all 4 victims' cause of death was from being stabbed multiple times. They were most likely asleep when they were attacked, and a couple of them had defensive wounds, which means they fought back. There were no signs of sexual assault. This was a bloody, horrific scene. There are pictures of blood dripping through Xana's room down the side of the house outside. Monday, November 28th, Steve Gonkaus, Kaylee's father, told ABC News in an interview that the children died fast and an earlier 911 call from the roommates would not have saved them. They did not suffer at all. The 2 surviving roommates in the house were being slandered on all social media platforms for not calling 911 when they heard something. People were sending them death threats and saying that they had something to do with the murders. The families were upset with police because they said they couldn't get much information from police.
Why were the police being so dry about information with the victims' families?
I think that they were being so dry because they didn't want the information about the suspect that they had in mind to get out and then him to see that and hide even more than he already was. On November 29th, police wanted people to keep an eye out for white Elantras. On that same day, a Washington State University police officer looked at cars that matched that description. He found one that was registered to Brian Koberger. On November 30th, Madison's dad said Maddie and Kaylee were inseparable since the 6th grade. They died together in the same room, in the same bed. Tuesday, December 13th, was 1 month since the murders. Police assured the case was not going to go cold, and they were getting new information each day. Friday, December 15th, Indiana police stopped Brian Koberger for traffic violations. Koberger was a student at Washington State, and his semester was ending, so he and his father were driving across the country back to their Pennsylvania home. This was a pre-planned trip in the white Hyundai Elantra that police were looking for in connection with the 4 murders. Brian and his father were stopped twice by police on December 15th while they were driving east of Indianapolis. Brian was driving both times while his father was in the passenger seat. They were stopped by the Hancock County Sheriff's Office for speeding. Then again, 9 minutes later, he was stopped by the Indiana State Police for following a vehicle too closely.
So were they pulled over in connection with the murder, or was it just in coincidence?
It was just a coincidence that he was breaking the law and not following the driving
Rules?
Yeah. They were just released with a verbal warning. On Tuesday, December 27th, authorities said that DNA from the suspect was found on a knife sheath left on the victim's bed, right next to the victim's bodies. Also on December 27th, police found trash from Brian Kohberger's parents' home in Pennsylvania. A lab then determined that the DNA that was found on the trash was the father of the person who left the DNA on the knife sheath. Friday, December 30th, Brian Kohberger was arrested in Pennsylvania's Pocono Mountains during the early mornings of December 30th. On Tuesday, January 3rd, Kohberger agreed to being extradited to Idaho during his January 3rd court appearance in Monroe County, Pennsylvania. He was arrested for 4 counts of first-degree murder and burglary. January 4th, Kohberger was extradited from Pennsylvania back to Idaho. The judge said each victim was stabbed and murdered with premeditation, with malice and forethought. Police found that 28-year-old Brian Kohberger had sent a series of messages to one of the victims over Instagram in late October of 2022. When she never replied to him, he sent more messages. Brian Kohberger's account followed Mogan's Kernoodles and Goncalves. Kohberger was a PhD criminology student at Washington State University in Pullman, which is just around 15 minutes from Moscow, Idaho.
If Kohberger was a PhD in criminology student, how did he make so many mistakes to get himself caught?
I think that he just wanted to try and get away with it, and he was just dumb when he was doing the murders, and he left a lot of evidence to get himself caught.
Idiot. What type of person was Brian Kohberger like?
He was a really shy person. He wanted to be really popular when he was little, and he tried to do everything he could for people to like him, but he was just an odd kid. And he even tried to take girls out on dates when he was older, but he was just weird and they didn't like him.
Oh, jeez. That's awful.
His cell phone was pinged at least 12 times at the King Road residence before the murders. His phone was also pinged and found that it was at the house just hours before the murders took place, which means he was scouting out the house before the murders, and he wanted to see everything that happened after the murders to see, like, if the police were there and that type of stuff.
So with all the evidence, did they ever find him guilty in the end?
In the end, they did find that Brian Kohberger was connected to the Idaho 4 murders. He's still on trial, and they never completely solved it, but they are pretty sure that he was connected to the Idaho 4 murders.
All right, Jake Paulers, thanks for listening.
Jacob.
We'll catch you on the next one.